During the summer, between my very driven daughter's college career between her junior and senior year, she landed my dream summer internship. She was going to spend 3 months in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And I like to kind of gauge to see who knows where I'm going with this, because some of you are going, Williams where? Williamsport, Pennsylvania is the home to the Little League World Series. Now, as a former youth ball player, many years ago, and someone who religiously watches the Little League World Series on television year after year, this was a dream come true for me. I'm sure it was for her as well, but at the moment I didn't care. Very strategically, my wife and I decided that my wife would drive up with her, get her settled in at the beginning of her internship. I would come back at the end of her internship just in time for championship weekend to experience the Little League World Series. Now, if you've ever watched it on TV or if you've ever been there, you know that there is a rite of passage about going there. And that is going to the top of the hill and sliding down on a piece of cardboard as you look over the magnificent ball field. So my first morning there, my daughter and I went up to the hill and we talked to a couple of the little kids. They let us borrow their cardboard box. They showed me how to do it. You tuck in tight, you lean forward, and you go. And I did. It wasn't pretty, but it was awesome. And at the bottom of the hill, I raised my arms in triumph, and suddenly this wave of emotion washed over me. And being the stoic daughter-dad that I am, I could not let on to this. But she caught on, and she leaned over, and she gave me a kiss on the cheek, and she said, "Core memory, Daddy?" Now, I had never heard the phrase core memory before, but it made perfect sense because what I just experienced would be locked in my soul forever. I remember what we were wearing. I remember the weather. I remember the little girl who waited for my daughter at the end of the hill when she got down there and gave her a high five and said, "Good job." I remember the view as we looked down on the ball field. I have other memories. They're generally worthless. They have a lot to do with 1980s movie, music, and TV trivia. And they typically start with the phrase, "if I'm not mistaken." But that's different from a core memory. A core memory is locked in. You know every detail of that memory and it never leaves you. Now, I use this as a way to make the argument for core values, because we all have values. Perhaps you're a law-abiding citizen until you're driving 75 in a 60. Core values are the ones that define who you are. They define your being and they define you to others. In my book, The Red Apple's Way, I took a look at 9 of the core values that set up our organization, our company, for success. Not mission, not vision, not branding, but the immutable DNA that differentiated us and led us to the position of creating a company, building it, and eventually selling it. We use these core values to define who we were, who we would hire, who we would work with, the services that we offered, the types of jobs that we would take on, the organizations that we would align with. But we also use these core values to ground us in the toughest of times. Because Jon Stewart said that if you don't stick with your values when they're being tested, they're not values, they're hobbies. Now, did I nail it every single time? Absolutely not. But I was committed to these values. So committed that I had to leave myself open to the possibility that I wasn't delivering on them. So people were holding me accountable to that. Here's where I challenge you. What are your values? Where do they come from? And how do you exemplify them? If you own a business, how does your staff emulate the values that you have set up? And how do you use it as a way to differentiate yourself and hold people accountable? Think about what your values are. Dig deep. Go past the soft stuff and determine what really makes your organization or you as an individual different. And feel free to borrow from the Red Apple's Way. You can adopt, adapt, and when you think you have them, now it's time to determine their longevity. 5 steps. Identify, authenticate, amplify, test, adjust. Those core values will serve as your foundation to success, authenticity, and I wish you luck. Core values, Daddy. Core memories, kiddo. Thank you very much.